Hi everyone, hope you're all doing good. Okay, so this is a brand new edition of the Tapology Lucky Bastard game, the first round draw for the 29th edition of the Tapology Lucky Bastard game, to be precise. There were four of you left in it last time, and the wheel eliminated all four of you. So here we are with a new game and 35 new entrants. So for this game, we'll just run through those names quickly. Those names are A, laugh my ass off, and Nazy. I'm not really sure how it's meant to be pronounced in full, but we just call him A for short on here. Baron von Rattus, Bellatrix, Boom Shakalaka, Calfoth, Canhaga Ruiz, Captain Quebec, C. Collins 44, Cheeseball, Cool Hand Puke, D1, D4, K10, who's making his debut in this game. So, welcome, best of luck on your debut. Always great to see some new faces around here. Damien Handel 420, Dr. Maxis 2, El Guapo, Foghorn Sam, Geneva 65, another debutant. So, welcome and best of luck to you too. Uh, It's your boy SB, Jack Soto, KK Kombu, Knife Rusty, Cushy Cake, Mule Floyd, Piggy Bank, Rigno, Shat, Cian6, me, Stephen Terry, Tyson Magomedov, the Dirty UFC Man, the MMA Historian, Trail Allman, Trig. Oh, I love this. Okay, so here we've got an alliance for the first time ever in this game. We have uh, an alliance where two users have come together to form one entity to take down the wheel, or at least try to anyway. Obviously, you're all familiar with Troz and Costradamus. They have agreed to join forces to become Trostradamus. That's the thing I love about this game, the absolute shithousery of it. It's every time we do a new edition, we find a way of uh increasing the level of fuckery in it, and it's brilliant. But what this means for the game is that Troz and Costradamus now um married together as Trostradamus will they basically get the same fighter. So both those users end up with the same fighter. They ride and die together. So that's brilliant. So yeah, best of luck to Trostradamus. First time we've seen an alliance in this game, and they are followed by a second alliance in the game, a German alliance between Ubermatch and Schwer Industry. So they've become Uber Industry. Um, I hope I pronounced that right. Anyway, but again, so best of luck to them as they've formed a German alliance, so to speak. See if combined German power and efficiency will be enough to take down the wheel. It's certainly an interesting theory to see if this actually leads to more success. But again, Schwer Industry and Ubermatch, they'll get the same fighters. They ride or die together as well, just like Trostradamus. uh, so yeah, this is brilliant. And finally, ex-con Chris, who's so that completes the list. And oh dear, that's I just want to say a massive thanks to all of you so far because for taking this part in this game because that's my favorite thing about this game is the sheer it's the sheer nonsense that goes on. It's such a fun and unserious game, and you guys all make uh wonderful contributions to it, and certainly get the atmosphere of it, which is brilliant. So massive thanks to everyone for that. And here we'll start a new game. This one we have UFC 315, Bilal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. This is of course Bilal Muhammad's first defense of his UFC welterweight title. And he obviously won now after beating Leon Edwards last time out. And I know he does get a lot of criticism from being a boring fighter, but at the end of the day, he's winning. He's still getting the win, still getting the results, and to be honest, the fact that he's the champion, it's great to see to show that even if you're not necessarily a fan-friendly style, if you're the best, you will still get the chances and the it'll be a harder route up to the belt, sure, but you can still get there. Um, and he's beaten pretty much everyone in the welterweight division to get there. To be fair to him, uh, I can't really say there's too many people can honestly say beats him. Um, Unfortunately, I don't think Jack Della Maddalena, as impressive as he is, I don't think he's quite ready to beat Bilal Muhammad. And he had a great knockout over Gilbert Burns in his last fight, but before then he had a couple of split decision wins against Kevin Holland and Basil Hafez, who, yes, they're good wins, no doubt about that, but their wins could also be argued could have gone the other way. Certainly how well at least one of the judges in each of the fights saw it. So last time, so that's whereas Bilal Muhammad's wins have been convincing as well. Uh, there's been no doubt at the end of his fights to really think that oh yeah he didn't win that. Um, so I'm going with Bilal Muhammad to make a successful defense of his belt with a unanimous decision. But of course, you're not here to listen to me ramble. You're here to see who you're going to get drawn with. And first up is A, laugh my ass off, a nazy. So let's see who he gets picked with. And he gets Ayman Zahabi. Ayman Zahabi there for A, laugh my ass off, a nazy. Ayman Ayman Zahabi. Probably haven't spelt or pronounced that right, so apologies to him if I haven't. Ayman Sahabi fighting Jose Aldo in a featherweight contest, and he's looking like a good prospect, but I think Jose Aldo is just going to be too much for him because even though this is a past his prime Jose Aldo, um, he's still Jose Aldo. He's still a legend of the sport, future Hall of Famer, no doubt about that for me. And he's I think his experience is just going to be too much for Sahabi, especially seeing he's 12-2 in his MMA career so far. Um, Whereas Jose Aldo's 32-9, just got an absolute wealth of experience by comparison. Um, yeah, I think the if he is going to win, he's probably going to have to win by knockout. Um, and that's certainly possible. Jose Aldo's 38 now, not getting any younger, so it's very possible he could get caught with something. Speed and reactions aren't quite what they used to be, but I think they're still good enough to get the win against Zahabi. So not one that I'm particularly confident in, to be honest. I've gone with Jose Aldo for decision, but so yeah, I think A's going to need a bit of luck to get through to the next round. Baron von Rattus is next to face the wheel. Let's see who he gets drawn with. Let's see who our resident rats or the king of the rats or baron of the rats, whatever order that is, gets drawn with. And he gets Manon Firo. Manon Firo. Probably not pronounced that one right either. Uh, Fio. Probably not spelt it right either. Um, Anyway, in the main event, not co-main event rather, sorry, against Valentina Shevchenko for the women's flyweight championship. And this is the first time in 2 years and 10 months where Valentina has fought someone not named Alexa Grasso. Obviously, her last three fights have been against Alexa Grasso, one win, one loss, one draw. Um, it's obviously she's a it's going to be a tough fight for her, but she's a legend of the sport, one of the women's goats. I'd probably say maybe only behind Amanda Nunes as the best women's fighter of all time. I suppose that's debatable. But Manon Fiorot, she's on a great win streak. She's done everything you can ask of a title challenger, and she's certainly earned this opportunity. Beaten Erin Blanchfield, Rose Namajunas, Caitlin Minara, Jennifer Meyer, uh, Maya Bueno Silva as well. So, and most of them have been very convincing decision wins as well. So, she's got everything going for her, beating everyone she needs to. But I think, similar to what I said about Jose Aldo, Shevchenko's experience is just going to be too much. And because of that, I've gone with Shevchenko for a decision win. But just think that Baron van Rattles will also need a little bit of luck to get through there. Bellatrix next to face the wheel. Let's see who the wheel's got in store for Bellatrix. Oh, and Bellatrix gets Jose Aldo. Uh, so that is head to head already there. Ayman Zahabi and Jose Aldo. Um, and yeah, what I've said just now, really, I think is obviously he has passed his prime. Is not quite as good as he used to be in his prime, but bearing in mind in his prime, he's, in my opinion, the best featherweight of all time. Maybe depends on my mood. You could swap him out for Alexander Volkanovski, but when you can compare his UFC and his Strike Force runs together, there's no doubt about it. He is either one or two in the featherweight all time rankings. So it's a shame most casual fans will only know him as the guy that Conor knocked out in about 13 seconds, but he's his career has been so much more than that. Um, so yeah, I'm expecting uh, another win for him here, simply because he's done everything in the sports, and Zahabi is just a little bit too inexperienced. He's only had 14 fights in his career, which I know it sounds like a lot, but 14 fights and like okay, for your 15th fight, you're going up against one of the all-time greats. It's that is a huge jump, and it's not one that I think he can overcome just yet. So certainly more confident in Boom Shakalaka and of Bellatrix. So I got my cursor on the Boom Shakalaka rather than Bellatrix there, but yeah, Bellatrix was Jose Aldo, obviously, and certainly more confident in that one than I am in A's Ayman Sahabi selection from the wheel. Okay, so now it's Boom Shakalaka. Let's see who he gets drawn with. He gets Jiong Yong Lee. Jiong Yong Lee there for um, Boom Shakalaka. Again, apologies if I mispronounced his name there. And he's up against Daniel Santos. Um, Again, they're both very similar situations, really. Actually, they're both three fights in the UFC. Both are 2-1 in the UFC. Um, and Jeong Yong Lee came to the UFC via the Road to UFC series. Um, and he's from what I've seen of him there, he's a very even mix of KOs, submissions, and decisions. So he's a very well-rounded fighter. Um, and I've gone with him simply because I can see that skill set just being slightly too much for Santos. But I think it's a very close fight though. This one is one that can really go either way. Another similarity I just noticed, they're both 11-2. These are two fighters at almost identical stages of their careers. So I've gone with young Lee, but that's not an overly confident pick. This is a true 50-50 fight. Uh, so Boom Shakalaka might need a little bit of luck on the night. Kalfoth is next take on the wheel. Let's see who Kalfoth is going to be rooting for tomorrow night. And he gets Navajo Sterling. Nava Joe Sterling there for Kalfoth. Uh, he's up against Even Urslan. Um, Navajo Sterling, 6-0, obviously still undefeated, but still early days yet in his career. Um, is one on his UFC debut, and obviously, like a lot of these newer prospects, come up through the Contender Series, which well, pretty much all do now, don't they? Let's be honest. Um, he's Before coming to the UFC, he was just knocking everybody out. He was getting a lot of KOs on the regional scene, and his last fight, though, funny enough, was a, um, a decision win. So, and it does raise the question. This is like, even though he's uh, shown he can hang in the UFC, he's has that power really translated to him? What exactly were the quality of those regional opponents he were knocking out? So we're still seeing how he transitions to the big stage. Um, as for Ivan Urslan, he lost his UFC debut last time out, but so he's thrown up against Ion Kutalaba, which who's obviously very experienced, certainly thrown to the wolves, so to speak. Um, he had a decent little run in KSW as well, the Polish promotion. 4-3 there, and which is one of the biggest in Europe. So is certainly no stranger to high level fights. Obviously not quite UFC level, but having said that, it's just a case of which of these uh, young fighters is going to make the jump into this level more effectively. And for me, that's Navajo Sterling. Um, Again, fairly close fight though, so we'll see, and we'll certainly learn a lot more about these two fighters after tomorrow night. Next to face the wheel is Canhego Ruiz. Uh, so let's learn his fate, see who he's going to be, who he's got in his corner for tomorrow night. And Canhego Ruiz gets Valentina Shevchenko, who's obviously fighting Manon Firo, and consequently that's makes it head to head. First head to not first head to yeah, the Zahabi Aldo one. But yeah, Baron von Rattus against Kenhago Ruiz with Manon Firo, Valentina Shevchenko repeatedly, and yeah, it's just a case of I think Shevchenko's going to make her experience count. She's and bearing in mind a lot of that experience as well is mostly title fights, which are obviously 5 rounds compared to the 3 round fights. So as well as having more fights under her belt, she also has a significantly more number of rounds under her belt as well. So it's uh so that's for me the biggest difference here. Firo definitely a worthy contender, and there's no reason at all why shouldn't be fighting for the belt. But yeah, it's going to be a very tough fight against one of the greats of women's MMA. So I think Canelo Ruiz will need a little bit of luck to get through. Oh no, you're right. Getting muddled up again. But yeah, no, he's fairly confident to get through. He's looking at the wrong one. I was looking at Baron von Ratus. I need a bit of luck to get through. Uh, I, I'm too tired for this, honestly. Long day. Anyway, Canega Reese is one I'm more confident is getting through anyway. Captain Quebec next to face the wheel. So he's gets paired with. He gets paired with the challenger Jack Della Maddalena. Jack Della Maddalena there for uh, Captain Payback. And yeah, looks good so far. He's in his UFC run, but certainly, I say, a good knockout last time in his fight against Gilbert Burns. But can he replicate that against Bilal Muhammad? I don't think so, because Bilal Muhammad's style is much more cautious than Burns. So um, I can't see Muhammad allowing him to land those kinds of shots. Well, certainly not that sort of knee that got Burns got taken down with, and I think Bilal's is going to be a very wrestling heavy performance, and that is the exact kind of style that you need to nullify someone with the striking threats that Jack Della Maddalena poses. So stylistically, this is an awful matchup for Jack Della Maddalena. But best of luck to him anyway. See if he can dethrone the champion. But I think he and consequently Captain Quebec's going to need a lot of luck to get through. See it being another dominant performance by Bilal Muhammad. C. Collins, 44, next to learn his fate at the hands of the wheel. Let's see who C. Collins gets paired with. And he gets Jasmine Jasudavicius, who, again, apologies if I've not pronounced the name right. Jasudavicius. Funny enough, she's also one of our Lucky Bastard Game Hall of Famers. Off the top, it's basically where fighters that win one of these editions for a player. So if it comes down to the final few people, and we only have one left, whoever the fighter that got that won the win goes into the Hall of Fame. And off the top of my head, I can't remember who or what game it was that she won it, but I remember she's in that list. Will she be as lucky for C. Collins? I th I think so. I think she should win this. Currently riding on a fourth fight win streak. But and she's up against Jessica Andrade, who for the life of me I can never predict her fights correctly. So take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But yeah, Andrade's more experienced, but a little bit past her best, I think. Which is it seems like the way this makes it makes it sound like this is a prospect being fed to a veteran, and it sort of is if you go by the numbers on the records. Jessica Andrade being 26-13, and Jasuda Vicious being 13-3, but Judah Vicious is actually 3 years older than Andrade. Uh, so yeah, physically she's older than Andrade, but then Andrade's taken more wear and tear in terms of the fight. So it's an interesting situation. It's not often you end up with situations like that, especially to that extent as well. Um, and to be honest, having 39 fights by the time you're 33 is absolutely ridiculous. So fair play to her for being so active. Um, but as I've said, every time in this game previously, whenever I picked Jessica Andrade To win, she's lost. Every time I picked her to lose, she's won. It's I can't pick her fights correctly. So by that logic, I've picked Jasmine Judavicius to win this one by decision. So by that logic, obviously Andrade's going to win. Or unless maybe I break the streak this time, I don't know. But a close fight for sure. Anyway, and C Collins just going to need a little bit of luck to get through, I think. Okay, move on now to Cheeseball. Let's see who Cheeseball is going to be paired with for tomorrow night's action. And Cheeseball gets Mike Mello. Mike Mello there for Cheeseball. I'm not sure if it's meant to be pronounced Malot or Malo, really. I normally watch my UFC events on mute, to be honest, because of the middle of the night for me, and I don't want to disturb anyone, and my headphones are fucked. But so yeah, I'm not sure whether it's one of those ones where I'm meant to put a little bit of flair on it and like mellow to make it sound French, or I've no idea. Um, anyway, his Mike is I've picked him to win by second round knockout up against Charles Radke. Um, is similar in terms of their experience levels. 11-2 and 11 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw for Mike, and Charles is 10-4. Um, Mike's 4-1 in the UFC. Charles 3-1 in the UFC. Um, and I think one thing is interesting to note is Mike is obviously very much a knockout artist, but his last fight was a unanimous decision win, which is also the first decision win of his career. Um, as is the extent of which he finishes fighters. Um, Charles Radke has been finished before, but only really by Carlos Prates, who spent pretty much all of last year just knocking everyone out. So there's no shame in losing to him. And yes, I think it's just a case of is Mike going to find a knockout? I think it's probably slightly more likely that he will. It just needs one or two good shots to get through, and that's the fight over. And that's the logic I'm going on as well, anyway. And to be honest, it shouldn't be a factor, but it is. But obviously, these fights are being held in Canada. Mike is Canadian, so I'm not saying the judges are obviously deliberately taking that into account, but unconsciously, just because obviously they're going to be rooting for their the fighter from their country, and the home crowd's getting behind their fighters. It's got to affect the judges one way or another unconsciously. So I think that's even if it goes the distance again, it's have a slightly unnatural advantage because of that as well. But overall, I think Cheeseball's in a decent position to get through to the next round anyway. Okay, we have Cool Hand Puke next to take on the wheel. Let's see who Cool Hand Puke gets drawn with. Okay, and Cool Hand Puke gets Modestas Bukauskas. Modestas Bukauskas there for uh, Cool Hand Puke. Um, I know I pronounced that one right or spelling it right. Use SKAS. Right. So yeah, no, I've not pronounced or spelled it right. So apologies to him for that. And he's up against Iron Kutalaba. And Kutalaba's a very inconsistent fighter. He's very good, and overall, I'd say he's when he's at his best, he's better than Modestas, but we just don't know which version of him is going to turn up on the night. And um, when he doesn't turn up, Modestas can beat him. Um, That's what I'm basing my selection on. I've gone with Modestas for a third round knockout. Um, yeah, so it's again it's Kutalaba. He beats the guys you wouldn't expect him to beat, but then he loses against the ones you think he probably should be taking care of. Obviously, he's riding a two-fight win streak at the moment, so that does throw a little bit of doubt into the equation as to whether or not Modestas is going to become another one of his victims. But Modestas is experienced enough. I think he should be able to handle Kutalaba. 5-4 in the UFC. Obviously, got a lot of Cage Warriors experience behind him as well. Um, so yeah, he's oh, and also in the UCMMA, which is a regional promotion, it was a lower level regional promotion, admittedly, in the UK, but uh, just give it a shout out here as it was when I was first getting into the sport. UCMMA was the first promotion I watched because I just found it was channel hopping on London Live and was on one of their segments later at night and got into the sport that way. So just sort of give them a shout out. I think Michael Venom Page also has a few fights there as well. Um, at least on one of them, he's giving a belt to one of their champions. So anyway, it's back to the UFC. Anyway, it's not that UCMMA is really relevant now, given he's had 9 UFC fights under his belt. Um, but as long as he stays focused and I think he should be able to handle Iron Kutalaba. But if the best version of Kutalaba comes into that cage tomorrow, it'll be a long night. Okay, so we move on to our first of two debutants here. D1, D4, K10. Sounds like a Star Wars android or something, doesn't it? But best of luck to you, and let's see who the will gives you for your first ever fighter in Lucky Bastard game. And your first ever fighter is Jessica Andrade. Jessica Andrade there for D1, D4, K10. Um, and so obviously that causes a bit of a head-to-head. So with C. Collins, who's got Jasmine Jasudavicius. C. Collins versus D1, D4, K10. Um, as I mentioned, I've picked Jasudavicius to win by decision, but I can never pronounce Jessica Andrade's never predict her fights correctly. So it'll suppose in that sense I've already jinxed it, haven't I? Have kind of now that I've said she's not going to win, she is going to win. So I don't know, take that with a grain of salt, but certainly more experienced of the two there. So that does play a huge part in the fights. That knowledge uh, that you got, and especially someone like that who's been around in the top end of the division for many years now. It's definitely going to be a huge factor. Actually, now I'm starting to. I think since recording this, I might actually change my official pick. I don't know. Maybe some point before tomorrow night, I might change my pick on Tapology to Andrade. I don't know. But a 50-50 fight, and so with a 50-50 chance for D1, D4, K10 to get through to the second round. Okay, Damien Handel 420s next to face the wheel. Let's see who he gets paired with. And he gets Navajo Sterling. Navajo Sterling there for Damien Handel 420. Same fighter that Calfoth was drawn in, so we got a double up there. Um, as already mentioned, undefeated 6-0 against Ivan Urslan. Uh, a little bit more experienced Urslan. 14 wins, 4 losses. And I say got the KSW experience as well, so that's set him up nicely for the UFC. And but then Sterling's also come up through the Contender Series, and that's uh pretty much designed to showcase you to UFC audience and get you used to the UFC process. So I suppose everything I said about that can be said about him too. Um, but I do still have a few questions as to the quality of the those regional opponents he was fighting. Whether or not he can still carry that KO, all those KOs into the UFC with him, or we don't know. It's simply too early to say, really, whether Sterling's going to be um, a future contender, or champion, or a ranked fighter, or whether he's just going to fizzle out. It's too early to say, really. But he's the favourite here, and he should win this fight. And for Damien Handel, that's all that matters so far. As long as he wins tomorrow night, Damien Handel goes through. Happy days for the duck. Dr. Maxis 2 is next. Let's see who Dr. Maxis 2 gets paired with. And Dr. Maxis 2 gets Brad Katona. Brad Katona there for Dr. Maxis 2. And he's on the first fight on the card, actually, against Beksat Al-Makan. And I've picked Katona to win by decision here. 4-4 in the UFC, so he's got plenty of UFC experience behind him. Uh, and again, it shouldn't be a factor, but he's Canadian. This is being held in Canada, and he does go the distance a lot in his fights. He does win a lot of his fights by decision. So I think that home advantage could definitely be a factor with the crowds getting behind their nation's fighter. It's sort of cheering on all of the big shots, regardless of how effective they were. It's got to have some kind of an effect psychologically or unconsciously on the judges' cage side. So yeah, I think that's one of probably thinking about it, one of the safer picks, but or at least one of the ones that I'm more confident in anyway. Um, Obviously up against Bekzat Al Makan, lost his UFC debut, but that was to Umar Nurmagomedov, who's challenged for the bantamweight title. So there's no shame in that one, loss at all. Um, is a lot of KOs on the regional scene before that UFC debut, but just just doesn't have the big stage experience that Katona does from having been in the UFC for 8 fights and making it his ninth fight tomorrow night. But anyway, I think Dr. Max is too. Anyway, he's got a decent chance of getting through. El Guapo next to face the wheel, learn his fate. Let's see who he gets drawn with, and he gets Ayman Zahabi. Ayman Zahabi there for El Guapo. Obviously, it makes the double up a bit more complicated now because we've got A and El Guapo now against Bellatrix and Jose Aldo. So it's yeah, as I've mentioned already a couple of times, Jose Aldo, legend of the sport. And that experience, I think, is just going to be far too much for Zahabi. I think Aldo's probably got more tools at his disposal to win. Um, but I think in terms of the striking game, he's going to have to be careful. Zahabi does have the knockout power that could finish it, and I think that's going to be Sahabi's route to victory. He's going to have to look for the knockout. Um, so we'll probably potentially see a very energized, highly motivated um, performance from Sahabi there as he tries to look for that. But I think Jose Aldo's. I can't see Sahabi doing anything that Aldo wouldn't have seen in his legendary career. So I think we'll be saying goodbye to El Guapo in the first round here, unfortunately, and obviously as the same goes for Calfoth as well. Not Calfoth. Who else had Eamon? A Lachmas off an easy there. But anything can happen in sports. We'll see who comes out on top of that little melee we got going on there. Foghorn Sam is next to learn his face at the hands of the wheel, and he gets Marc Andre Barrios. Marc Andre Barrios there for Foghorn Sam. And excuse me, right, so up against Bruno Silva. Um, I've picked Mark to win by decision, and he's currently on a three-fight losing streak, but then his opponent Silva's on a four-fight losing streak. Um, is the only concerning thing for me though is the Barrios' last two losses have been by knockouts. Um, but that's the only real concern for me. And Bruno Silva as well. He's as I've mentioned, yes, he's on a four-fight losing streak, but when you look into it, that streak includes Chris Weidman, Shriram Magomedov, Brendan Allen. So it's not as bad as it looks. He's been fighting the best that middleweight, or some of the best that middleweight have to offer. Not maybe not quite the higher echelon of the ranking, but he's ranks contenders for sure. He also missed weight by 2 pounds in the weigh-ins. Is he going to come in? Is basically how drained is he going to be? Is he going to be less drained from that, or was the weight cut so brutal that he couldn't make it take any more off? And it's always quite hard to read that, but it's no doubt potential an advantage there for him. Uh, but I've gone with Andre Barrios as for this one by decision, but he has the power to finish it earlier if need be. He's got that knockout power, and if Silver is coming into this range, that's a very bad, very potentially very dangerous situation for him. But I'd say overall a decent pick for Foghorn Sam and a decent chance of getting through. Okay, and we move on now to Geneva 65, who's also making his debut in the games. So welcome, best of luck to you. Let's see who your first ever fighter is going to be. And it is oh, also Marc Andre Barrios there. So yeah, we got a double up. Um, both Foghorn Sam and Geneva 65 on Marc Andre Barrios hype train, or if you can call it that. A little bit of a stretch, I suppose, isn't it? But yeah, not really a lot I can add to that other than that, given the fact I've just rambled on about it for the last 5 minutes. But I suppose the only other thing I can say about him is again, he's another Canadian. If it does go the distance, maybe hometown advantage might be a factor as well. For me, he's just got more things. He's just got more things in his favour overall. And to be honest, I suppose I've gone with him as a decision just to be safe. But he can. I suppose becoming increasingly confident he could finish it earlier than that. So again, that might be a pick a change later. I don't know, but overall, I think that's a decent chance of making your first ever second round. So I think the word's been fairly kind to you on your debut. Right. Okay. So we've got it's your boy SB next. See who he gets paired with for tomorrow night's Octagon Mayhem. And that's not great, is it? Is it? It's Kyle Prepolek, um, the biggest underdog on the cards. Yeah, fighting Benoit Saint Denis, and just to be honest, he's just a sacrificial lamb for Benoit Saint Denis, really. Um, start with Benoit to put his situation into context. He's very good looking prospects. Then lost two fights against Renato Moicano and Dustin Poirier. Two very good fighters, and no shame in those losses at all. But the UFC definitely looking to try and get him back on track with this one. Um, Kyle has been in the UFC before. He fought twice in 2019 with and he lost both of them. And it does look like the UFC basically just kept his number to one side and just like if we ever need someone to fill a gap or to make one of our prospects look good, we'll give him a call, and that seems to be what's happened here. Um he does have uh some decent regional wins. He's currently riding a three fight win streak on the regional circuit, but it's that's about the only thing he's got going for him. Um I just can't see any way that Benoit Saint Denis doesn't lose this. It's he's a massive favourite as he should be. So yeah, I can't see it's your boy SB getting through this one. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be where we say goodbye to him. Um, unless a massive upset happens, but I'd be stunned if that happens to tell the truth. Let's see if Jack Soto has a bit of better luck in with this one. And Jack Soto gets Jasmine Jasudavicius. Uh, there's- and as I mentioned earlier, he's uh, uh, she rather uh, to win by decisions. What picks her for four fight win streak currently on against Maya Buena Silva, Ariane Lipski, and she's yeah got everything going for her. It just doesn't have the same fight experience Andrade has. Um, Speaking of that, does also make it. I kind of lost the track of this now, haven't I? Of who's been doubled up with who? I'm sure it'll all become clearer later on. But yeah, C Collins as well also has Jasmine. And D1 D4 K10 has the opponent Jessica Andrade. So uh, sort of a 2v1 there going on. But as I mentioned before, I just can't pick Jessica Andrade's fights correctly at all. So I think I might have jinxed it by saying that Jasmine's going to win this. But anyway, a 50-50 fight for sure. So Jack Soto with a fairly decent chance of getting through. Okay, let's see who KK Kombu gets paired with. And it's Jack Della Maddalena, the title contender for Bilal Muhammad's belt. Uh, who else got drawn with them? Someone did, didn't they? Captain Quebec also drawn with Jack Della Maddalena, but besides that, really good knockout over Gilbert Burns, and he is good. I'm not going to downplay that one. So that's a brilliant win. Um, I just don't think that alone's really enough uh to take down someone who's just been so consistent as Bilal Muhammad. I mean, his last time he lost was to Jeff Neal back in January 2019. So that's over 6 years ago now since he last lost. His last loss before that was in 2016. Uh, so it's just as some people call it boring, but it's a very effective style of fighting. So you can't blame him for doing what he does. He makes it a very wrestling heavy fight at times, but you can't blame him for that. Gets the wins, it furthers his career. And in this case, I think he's going to defend his title because of it. So I think, yeah, KK Kombu. Excuse me. Yeah, KK Kombu's going to need a little bit of luck there. Uh, Quite a bit of luck actually. Right, so move on now to Knife Rusty. Knife Rusty's going to learn his fate, see who the wheel uh, donates to him. And the other title challenger on the card, Manon Fiorot against Valentina Shevchenko. Again, I won't try and untangle it now, but that's a double up with a few head to heads, I think. Um, so it'll all become clear when you type it out in the forums after this. But good win streak. It's just a case of up and comer with a good win streak, really coming up against a legend of the sport, and yeah, I think Shevchenko's experience is oh, excuse me, I'm almost falling asleep at the computer here, right? And I think Shevchenko's experience going to be enough to see it through. Um, the only concern though is the fact that obviously she's been fighting Alexa Grasso for the last 3 years nearly. That's her last three fights anyway. And when you've been training almost consistently for one specific fight or specific style, it can sort of put you out of practice a little bit. And not a thing that's going to be too much of an issue, but it could be a factor potentially. Um, that Firo uh, might catch her out with something that she's just not been training as hard, because obviously that must have affected her training routines having the same fighter over and over. But she's experienced enough that I don't think that's really going to be a factor. Just something I've thrown out there to try to play devil's advocate, really, for KK Kombu and everyone else that had Manny on Firo. Cushy Cake next face the wheel. Let's see who Cushy Cake is drawn with. And Cushy Cake gets Daniel Santos. Daniel Santos there for Cushy Cake. So Daniel Santos fighting Jiong Yong Lee, who I've picked to win by decision, but it is a very close fight because there's two fighters very close, very similar in their circumstances of their career. Both 2-1 in the UFC, both 11-2 overall. Um, it's yeah, so I'm going with Jong Lee simply because in that Road to UFC series, he showed uh, to be fairly well rounded. So I think that's going to be should just be enough to give him the edge in this one against Daniel Santos. So arguments can be made for him. It's also fought for Brave FC before, so again, decent experience on the regional scene there. One of the better promotions to fight for. Um, Mostly goes for knockouts, but also a threat from submissions as well. So again, like Jiong Lee, fairly well rounded. I personally just think Young Lee's again, apologies for butchering his name there. Skill set is just going to be too much for Santos, but that's just based on what I can recall from on top of my head. Okay, so yeah, 50-51 there for Cushy Cake. Mule Floyd now to learn who he's going to be paired with. And he gets the man, the myth, the legend, Jose Aldo, who I've mentioned a few times now. It's going to be a tough fight for Ayman Sahabi, coming up against the legend so relatively early in his career. But he's been there, done everything that Jose Aldo has, and he's just um, I think that experience is going to be enough to see him through because I can't really, besides the immediate knockout threat, as lo- as long as Aldo fights fairly cautiously, fairly conservatively, I guess. I can't see Sahabi landing that shot, um, like getting that knockout. If Unless Aldo's reactions have since slowed down a lot since his last few fights, but I don't think he's that over the hill just yet. That and If Sahabi had a few more fights under his belt, maybe five more fights under his belt, and this was taking place in a year or two, I'd probably I probably would favour Sahabi, but I don't think it's quite got to that stage just yet. So I'm fairly confident in Jose Aldo. Admittedly, a lot of that's biased because I've been watching him for so long. So obviously, I'm biased towards him for that. That's so take my opinions of him slight grain of salt, but he's a legend of sport, though. That isn't disputed. Right. Okay, we move on to Piggy Bank now. Let's see who Piggy Bank is going to be paired with. And he also gets Daniel Santos. Just like Cushy Cake before him. Um, be rooting for Daniel Santos against Jiong Yong Lee. And again, almost a 50-50 fight. Two fighters, almost identical situations in their career. And I just think Lee's just the slightly better of the two. We'll see if my hypothesis is correct tomorrow night, but not really a lot I can add to that one, having covered it a few times now. This is, I guess, the stage of the video where, because we tend to get a lot of double ups, kind of run out of things to say about these fighters. So, less rambling, I suppose. That's good for you. Is what you want to hear. Um, May as well move on to Rigno now. Let's see who Rigno's metaphorical dance partner is going to be tomorrow night. And Rigno gets Marc-Andre Barrios. Marc-Andre Barrios there for Rigno, obviously up against Bruno Silva, as mentioned. Um, it's just a case of who can break their win streak, really. Does Mark break his three-fight win streak, or does Bruno break his four-fight win streak? Um, Personally, I think Mark's more likely to achieve that. But as I say, the last two have been knockout losses, though, and that can often change a fighter for the worse. That can really throw their career off entirely. Um, and as for Silva, mentioned it before he missed weight, and I mentioned last time, if he's depends how the weight cut's gone, obviously, but he could come in being drained. Maybe he doesn't have as much power, or maybe he's has more power. Certainly got more weight behind him, having rehydrated from a heavier starting point. But so it could be that he comes in just a little bit stronger and finds that knockout. And for someone who's been knocked out two times previously, that could spell disaster for him. But for me, I think this could be decided by the weight cut. It depends on that's how badly that's affected Silva. But I am still relatively confident in Marc-Andre Barrial. I think he still gets it done, still does it inside the distance as well. Um, Certainly an option anyway. I've picked him officially as decision, but certainly not impossible. Right. Okay, so we move on to Shat now. Let's see who Shat gets paired with. And Shat gets Jack Della Maddalena. Uh, Obviously, the main event title challenger against Belal Muhammad. And yeah, as I've mentioned, I think it's not that Jack isn't a worthy contender or anything like that. He absolutely is. Uh, but it's just a case of he's not one of the few, I think, who has a very good chance of beating Bilal Muhammad. I think that Bilal's pressure and and that's the thing. A lot of people call him boring. I think they probably aren't looking at is he's constantly putting his opponents under pressure. It's not like he's just sitting back and not doing anything. He's just overwhelming them. And I think Jack will find himself up against the cage and on the floor quite a lot. I think it's gonna could be a long 5 rounds for Jack Della Maddalena. Um, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. All will reveal itself tomorrow night as to whether we have a new welterweight champion or whether Bilal starts a long reign of dominance potentially. Who knows? But bit of an uphill battle for Shats, if I'm being honest. Okay, we've got Six next to face the wheel, and Six gets Natalia Silva there for Six. First time she's come up. Obviously fighting against Alexa Grasso, um, uh, former rival now, obviously of Valentina Shevchenko. And everything I've said about Shevchenko, training for one specific fighter. The same applies to Grasso in turn, because obviously her last 3 fights have been against Shevchenko. So essentially, with Grasso training for Shevchenko for the last 2.5, 3 years, it's that with her being on her mind, it's going to be, it could be, um, sort of you train for one fighter, but then you sort of neglect other bits of your game potentially. But I think she's professional enough that wouldn't be a case. It's like I said with Valentina Shevchenko, I think that could be. She's better than to let that sort of thing get to her. But I don't know. I've got a sneaky feeling Natalia Silva does get this done, and I've got her to win by decision. Um, as long as she plays it right, it could even potentially be a finish because she's got the knockout power. She can go the distance if need be. But she does have a few good KO wins on her record as well, and I don't think it's impossible that maybe she catches Grasso with something, particularly if I think Grasso's going to be the one coming in a bit more. I expect her to try and look for another submission win if she's going to try and finish the fight. And it's possible Silva catches her with something as she goes in for a takedown or something. But I say there's a lot of different factors to consider really. But Personally, I have gone with Natalia Silva, and this is definitely more of a 50-50 fight than Shevchenko's fight is. So, CN6 need a little bit of luck, maybe, but it's certainly not impossible for you to get through. Um, right, so now it is me. It's Stephen Terry. I'm going to learn my fate at the hands of the wheel. Let's see if the wheel's going to be kind to me or not. Never usually is, but to be fair, I think he has been kind to me this time. The wheel, because I get Brad Katona, uh, who's one of the ones that I've picked. I've simply because he's got quite a few UFC fights under his belt now. 4-4 in the UFC, not the prettiest record, but fighting at that level, regardless of the wins or the losses, it counts for something. Simply because you get used to fighting a certain level of opponent. You get used to you learn how to deal with their threats and their so someone in Katona's position anyway, they have an advantage over someone like Bezcat, who is coming into this with only the one previous UFC fight, obviously a very high level one at that against Duman and Magomedov. But I think that experience that Katona has is going to make all the difference in that fight. And yeah, so that's quite a good pick. I think the wheel's been quite kind to me. So thank you for that, wheel. And having said that, this is where Besset goes knocks him out in first, but probably will be knowing my luck. But I do fancy my chances with that one. Okay, so we have Tyson Magamainov up next to learn his fate. Let's see who he's going to be paired with, and he also gets Valentina Shevchenko. So there's quite a lot of people on there now. Um, I'll say I'm not going to waste time trying to go through and trying to work out, oh, they're fighting there. I can do it in the early stages when it's only one or two of them, but it starts to get messy when there's a lot of, then you get about 4 or 5 people all lumped on there. But definitely a lot of interest in the co-main events, and I suppose probably that's going to be our unofficial Lucky Bastard Game main event. The fight to keep an eye on for tomorrow night. Um, but as I've said numerous times now, I think Shevchenko's experience is just going to be too much for Manon, who's I say good win, good contender, but I think it's going to be just a bit too much for her. So anyway, Tyson Magomainov's got a good chance of getting through. Anyway, that's my reckoning for that one. Right, we have the dirty UFC man next to learn his fate at the hands of the wheel. Oh, it's right on the line there, but it's Yong Lee there. So it is Jiong Yong Lee, who again, as I mentioned, very close fight with Daniel Santos, and came into it via the road to UFC, and it was that, and I suppose because of that, I've been more exposed to him. So again, bias is definitely a factor here. Um, but whereas Daniel Santos, uh, yeah, he's same number of UFC fights as well, so we're not completely unfamiliar with him, but two very similar fighters, and I think it's gonna be Lee's skill set that just wins it for him on the day. Santos does generally go for the knockout most of the time, but I say again, he's well rounded. He's got good submission as well. It's it'll be a very interesting fight, but I think Lee's just got the upper hand in it. So dirty UFC man with a 50-50 chance there. The MMA historian next up. Let's hoping that the wheel doesn't make him lucky bastard game history, even if he is MMA history. And yet another one on Valentina Shevchenko. So I will do a quick take actually. Let's just have a look. See, just count the numbers. See how many have got Valentina. That's one. Really? That's it. There's more than that. Right, so that's one. Uh, deleted. Really? Okay, only three. Could have sworn it was more than that. Unless I missed one as I was just scrolling through it, but I don't know. Anyway, definitely thought it was more than that. But anyway, Shevchenko, as I've mentioned, and obviously just mentioned a couple minutes ago, um, just yeah, just too much experience at the high level, too much 5 round experience in title fights, especially with the pressure of a title fight as well. That's something that Fiorot's not quite experienced yet. Obviously, every fight has a lot of pressure on it, but a title fight is just a different level entirely. And so obviously that's not going to be a problem for Shevchenko to handle. But yeah, so that's another one I'm fairly confident on. So I think the MMA historian should get through in this one. Okay, Trail Allman next to discover what's in store for him. And Jessica Andrade there for Trail Allman, the lady whose fights I can never predict right. So, and I've realised probably in quite a few as well, double ups on the Andrade Jasmine Judavicius fight. I say I've gone with Jasmine's fight and for the gone with her for the win by decision, but um, purely because she's been more consistent as of late. So on a 4 fight win streak, whereas Jessica Andrade is 2-3 in her last five. Um, but uh, I suppose that momentum, that consistency, definitely has to count for something, doesn't it? And she's not been beating the scrubs of the flyweight division. She's been fighting good fighters, so it's even though slightly less experienced than Andrade, it's maybe that would carry her over. I don't know, or maybe it's a case of Jasuda Vicious's momentum going for her up against Andrade's experience. So it'll be interesting to see what prevails in that battle, whether it's the experience or momentum. What happens when a movable object meets an experienced fighter, or something along those lines? I don't know. I don't do philosophy or wherever that comes under. I don't know. Anyone that's listened to me rambling will probably have guessed that academica wasn't exactly my strong point. But anyway, we move on to Trig. Let's see who Trig is going to be matched with by the love matchmaking wheel, and gets paired with Alexa Grasso. Alexa Grasso there for oh, and by the sounds of this, is the first time Alexa Grasso's come up because the Excel sheet didn't auto recommend that as an option that I've typed in before. So I think that's the uh, first person we have on the side of Grasso against Natalia Silva. And again, similar situation to Shevchenko having fought her 3 times, but she's got the last 3 fights anyway, of all title fights. So got that experience behind her. Um, I think she's going to win this one. Going to be by submission. Obviously, that's what she got the first time she fought Shevchenko. And I think that's probably her best route to victory against Natalia Silva. But Silva would have seen oh, First off, she's Brazilian as well, so I'm guessing, I suppose a little bit stereotypical there, but generally, I think that if you're Brazilian, you shouldn't really struggle as much with submission threats. Is you got you're going to have learned a little bit more. It's BJJ and is going to be a lot heavier in the Brazilian MMA culture than it is in other parts of the world. So obviously, I don't think there's. I'd expect, but I wouldn't expect Grasso to cause too many problems with that, but definitely something to work to watch out for. But I'd expect Silver's submission defense term I'm looking for there would be enough to fend off Grasso. Okay, and so now we move on to the first of our two alliances, Trostradamus. Um, so this is the first. Let's see how the wheel responds to two users coming together in holy matrimony. Uh, First ever spin for an alliance. So yeah, let's see how Trostradamus get on together. This is brilliant. I love all of this. Pure nonsense. It's amazing. They get Ion Kutalaba. Ion Kutalaba there for Trostradamus. Um, Kutalaba, very uh very inconsistent, but on his day, better than Modestas Bukauskas. So Trostradamus will be hoping that um, the good version of Kutalaba turns up, because if so, then it's a winnable fight, and they've got a ticket into the next round. But I don't think they could have got drawn with a more inconsistent fighter. So as for how well this alliance has worked, well, um, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? See what the results are. But uh, I'm not overly confident in Trostradamus's chances. I don't think the wheel's been too kind to the idea of an alliance, but we'll see. We'll see if our German alliance gets on any better. Anyway, we'll Uber Industry. Who the two German players, Ubermatch and Schwer Industry, joining together. Let's see if the wheel. I don't know. Maybe it looks kinder on the Germans. Maybe the wheel is German. I don't know. And no, I don't think so. Jack Della Maddalena. Um, so that's, in my personal opinion, I think both of our alliances, ironically, could go out in the first round here. Um, which puts a dent in the alliance strength in numbers theory. I suppose that's another hypothetical thing, isn't there? Can there be such a thing as strength in numbers in a game of pure probability? Because when you think of strength in numbers, it's like you're usually fighting an actual a physical thing, but the wheel isn't really a physical thing. It's pure luck whether you get through or not. So it doesn't matter if you and somebody else work together as a team, because you can't really work together as a team against luck, can you? I don't know. Oh, that's a philosophical debate, isn't it? You can all have a nice, great big argument about that one in the comments, on the Tapology forum as well. Yeah. How much does teamwork play a part in a game of luck? That'll have Plato and Homer and some other ancient Greek philosophers scratching their heads, but no, it's something I've not really considered. Certainly not something I've considered at 2:30 in the morning, anyway. Mind you, if you're not staying up all night with a drink in your hand discussing philosophy, then you're doing philosophy wrong, aren't you? That's how philosophy. That's the only way philosophy should be discussed. But anyway, Jack Della Maddalena, can he dethrone the champion and get our German alliance through? We'll have to wait and see, but I don't think so. Anyway, I think Bilal Muhammad's just gonna just going to overwhelm him. And I think our German alliance is going to be metaphorically pinned against the cage quite a lot. Anyway, last but by no means least, ex-con Chris. Let's see who ex-con Chris gets matched with for tomorrow night. Rounds off tonight's draw. And it also gets drawn with Jessica Andrade. So Jessica Andrade there for ex-con Chris. And again, younger than her opponent, but more experienced. A little bit past her prime, but not too much. Um, Jasuda Vicious coming in with the momentum, though. That's the thing. It's a four-fight win streak, and that's going in her favour. And maybe also the wheel will take kindly to the fact that Jasuda Vicious is a Lucky Bastard Game Hall of Famer. We'll see. But 50-51 to finish off tonight's action. And a lot of these are 50-50, to be honest. I think this could really go either way. We could either split the field in half, or I think it could be, depending how it goes, there's still quite a lot of you in it, or quite a lot of you going out. But we'll see, won't we? We'll just have to see how this all plays out tomorrow night in the cage. That's ultimately where it gets decided. But that concludes our game, our draw for this one. We'll just run through the names one last time just to confirm who's got who. We have A with Ayman Zahabi, Baron von Rattus with Manon Fiorot, Bellatrix with Jose Aldo, Boom Shakalaka with Jiong Young Lee, Cal Foth with Navajo Sterling, Kenhager Ariz with Valentina Shevchenko, Captain Quebec with Jack Della Maddalena, C. Collins 44 with Jasmine Jasuda Vicious, Cheeseball with Mike Malone, Cool Hand Puke with Modestas Buku Skas, D1 D4K10 making his debut, and he gets drawn with Jessica Andrade. Damien Handel 420 with Navajo Sterling. Dr. Max is 2 with Brad Katona. El Guapo with Ayman Zahabi. Both Foghorn Sam and our debutants, Geneva 65, drawn with Marc Andre Barriot, not part of an alliance, but just by coincidence. It's your boy SB has been absolutely metaphorically fucked over by the wheel with Kyle Ripolek. Jack Soto, Jasmine Jasuda Vicious. KK Kombu with Jack Della Maddalena. Knife Rusty with Manon Firo. Cushy Cake with Daniel Santos. Mule Floyd with Jose Aldo. Piggy Bank with Daniel Santos. Rigno also with Marc Andre Barriot. Shat with Jack Della Diddly Doodah. Jack Della Maddalena. CN6 with Natalia Silva. Me with Brad Katona. Tice Magomedov with Valentina Shevchenko. The Dirty UFC Man with Jiong Young Lee. The MMA Historian with Valentina Shevchenko. Trail Allman with Jessica Andrade. Trig with Alexa Grasso. The Trostradamus Alliance with Iron Kutalaba. The Uber Industry Alliance with Jack Della Maddalena. And finally, Ex-Con Chris with Jessica Andrade. So that completes the draw for the tomorrow night, and it's an interesting mix what we've got here, isn't it? It's like I say just now, I think it could be a case of we either end up with a lot of you through or a lot of you out, or because so many of these fights I've described as 50-50. God knows how many times I've used that term in this video. There's no other term for it. But the main interest for me, though, obviously, I want to see how well these alliances work out. Trostradamus and Uber Industry, I'll be keeping particular eye on, obviously. See see how these alliances get on. But anyway, all that leaves me to say is good luck to everyone. If you've got bets on this card, good luck with them. Good luck with your picks on Tapology. And until next time, so long for now.